Ambassador Sikri, if I may start actually with you. What is that line? And countries have to be careful. Diplomats like yourself have spent a long time actually walking that tightrope. What is that line where a country like ours speaks up for the rights of religious minorities, but doesn't go so far as it to be considered interfering with the internal matters of another country? Because once you do that, any country can turn around and attempt to do the same with you. What do you make of the situation in Bangladesh, and how should we be responding? And are we responding in the way that we ought to be responding?
Well, let's be very clear. Right from day one, from the day 5th of August 2024, that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left Bangladesh and came to India, the attacks have been on the minorities. And the attacks were of such severity and such intensity that our Prime Minister spoke about it even in the message that he sent to Muhammad Yunus 4 days later. On the 8th of August, Professor Muhammad Yunus was sworn in as chief advisor. But in that introductory message, when our Prime Minister said, we are ready to talk to you, to carry on relations with Bangladesh, he also said, please look after the interests of minorities. And at that time, Professor Muhammad Yunus had telephoned our Prime Minister and assured him that, yes, he would look after the question of the issues of minorities, and he attached a lot of importance to communal harmony in Bangladesh. But the situation has not improved at all. Rather, it has completely worsened for two reasons. A, the attacks have intensified, and they are, the Bangladesh Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Oikut Jot, and other groups have talked about 2,000 attacks within the first 3 weeks. People have lost their lives, they've lost their properties, they've been rapes and killings. And after that, the attacks on economic livelihoods, forcing professors in university, Hindu professors to resign, forcing Hindu teachers to give up their jobs, taking over properties, and the attack on the media. There's been an enormous attack on the media of all shades of opinion. And hundreds of journalists are now in jail accused of murder. Hundreds others have lost their press accreditation. There's a complete anarchy in Bangladesh, and there's a mobocracy. And I think the influence or the situation on the minorities hasn't improved at all. But I think that one aspect we have to take a very important note of this time, that the minorities themselves, the younger generation, has decided to take a stand. They are not going to go meekly while they are being told every time, leave the country, go. Even the Buddhist minorities attacked in Khagrachari in September were told even by the army people over there, leave the country. But the minorities have decided to stay. They said, we are citizens of this country. We want our rights. We want to stay. And we insist that our rights be met. So they have prepared an 8-point demand for the interim government, and this includes very simple issues like a law to protect minorities, a ministry to protect further minorities, that those who have attacked, they should be caught, they should be tried, justice should be given, and so on. And it is this 8-point demand that is being talked about by Chinmoy Krishna Brahmachari when he was in Chittagong, and then earlier in Rangpur, and so on. And even permission for meetings were not given. The meetings were held 5 kilometers outside Rangpur. They were attacked. But instead of catching the attackers, Chinmoy Krishna was arrested and taken to court in Chittagong. And outside there, just showing the visuals, when his supporters came to meet him and greet him, there were attacks on the supporters by the police, and a lawyer has died. But the government, led by Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus, is in complete denial. They are not even talking about the attacks on the processions. They're just saying that we have charged somebody with sedition. Chinmoy Krishna is in charge with sedition, and we are worried about the death of the Muslim lawyer. All the focus is on the death of the lawyer, and none on the actual requirements, the interests, the needs that the minority community has.
Can I ask you, ma'am, before I open this up, how directly can and should India wade into this?
Well, I must say two things. First of all, in India, the support, the anger at the treatment of minorities has grown enormously. And this is something that no government can ignore. I mean, now in Tripura and in West Bengal, we are seeing doctors who are refusing to treat Bangladeshis, saying, no, why are you attacking our Hindus? They're not going to treat you. And so this is there. As you said yourself, that Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has herself appealed to the Prime Minister to take. We have seen rallies in all over the place. So I think this issue is something that globally we have seen, evidence is being given towards various international commissions. The former US Commissioner for International Religious Freedoms has spoken about the state of affairs in Bangladesh. And President-elect Trump, he himself, before the elections, spoke about the chaos in Bangladesh. He spoke about the barbaric attack on Hindus and Christians, and he spoke about correcting the situation. So I think this situation now is too much and too big to be ignored, and I think that we have to seriously consider. Suvendu Adhikari, the head of the BJP in West Bengal, he spoke in the assembly and said, "I'm going to go to Benapole, Petrapole, and stop." So there are many aspects that the government can consider, and I'm sure the government in its own way is considering. In the meanwhile, humanitarian aid is going. It's not that we are, because the situation in Bangladesh is very bad, because there's complete anarchy, the economy is in total collapse. Inflation is sky high, no food is available.
Let me bring in Ambassador Sinha to add to this, and then we'll come to you, Dr. Mobashir. Ambassador Sinha, Sheikh Hasina, we in India have stopped trying to find out where she is, but she is here, and we don't know much else. And this has been some sort of a red rag for the Bangladesh government. You have in the past, I think, had a very strong opinion on how we should handle this. But given what's happening in Bangladesh, that becomes another layer of tension between India and Bangladesh. How do you respond?
The fact that we have given shelter to Sheikh Hasina is a red rag to the Bangladeshi government, because, as you know, Muhammad Yunus has a very intense dislike for Sheikh Hasina. Sheikh Hasina had taken action against him when she was in power. So there's this very strong personal rivalry. And of course, the politics in Bangladesh is extremely violent between the Jamaat and BNP on the one side and Awami League on the other. So the violence inside Bangladesh has been as much against the Hindu community and the minorities as against the Awami League itself. And the media, for example, the media is also mixed. So it is not that they're only targeting the Hindus over there. The Hindus are being targeted, but in addition to that, you have the Awami League people and the independent media being targeted as well. Now, Muhammad Yunus is clearly not in a position. He holds an office of the chief advisor, but he's obviously not in control of the situation. The police has been largely disarmed, and they have been practically disbanded. So it is the army that is being called into to take care of day-to-day law and order situations. And in addition to that, you have the general violence that has been endemic in Bangladesh since it became independent. So you have a very difficult situation, a very sensitive one. Now, Sheikh Hasina here is, of course, she's in India, and she also makes statements, and these statements are being published in our newspapers. So that is definitely a matter for the Bangladeshi government to feel enraged about. But I don't think we should take that into, while we should take that into consideration, I don't think that should be any reason for us to deny Sheikh Hasina asylum in our country.
Do you believe we should formally announce this asylum?
Well, we don't have a policy on asylum, so even from the Dalai Lama down to the exile, down to the, we don't have any formal system of giving asylum. We don't have an asylum law. But the very fact that she has been allowed to stay on in India means that she's has got asylum here. And the fact that she's making statements which are being published in the media means that she has access to the media. So she's not being gagged here in India. So we just have to accept that her presence in India will be one of the major irritants in our relations with Bangladesh. But we have to deal with that, just have to deal with a number of other issues that have been there in our relations with Bangladesh in the past and will continue to be in the future as well.
Let's bring in a Bangladeshi perspective. Again, there's no one singular Indian perspective and there's no one singular Bangladeshi perspective. No country is a monolith. Acknowledging that, Dr. Mobashir, how do you look at what's happening in Bangladesh? I have a lot of Bangladeshi friends who've expressed concern about the rights of minorities, who have expressed concerns about Islamists, taking place of what was criticized for being a dictatorial government, but certainly not an Islamist government. I'm talking about the Hasina government. How do you see what's happening, in particular, with respect to the rights of Hindus? And also, Dr. Mobashir, if I can play out the images now, we're seeing shocking images of the Indian flag being desecrated in universities across Bangladesh. These images are disturbing to Indians, but again, essential to show, because this is it is emblematic also of the tension between India and Bangladesh. These images would have been unimaginable at one point. Dr. Mobashir, please go ahead.
Thank you, Barkha. I mean, I came from Bangladesh 2 days ago. So I spent about 3 weeks there. I had a lot of conversation with, researcher, political parties, including my friends who are in Awami League. I do understand that there is some challenges for the rights of minorities, and for the viewers, one of my specialties is on religious politics in Bangladesh, and these challenges of rights of minorities is always been there since the 1971 when Bangladesh got independent. So it is, and whenever we see a change in government, there is this, especially when Awami League loses its hold from power, as Ambassador, one of the ambassadors said that there tends to be a mix between the attack on Awami League and attack of Hindu who could be an Awami League supporters. So there is this, we need to be, at least in my view, we need to disentangle the political violence from religious motivated violence.
You're saying since many of the Hindu groups are supporters of the Awami League, there is a coincidence between the attacks on Awami League supporters and Hindu groups.
And I also want to say that I don't support any sort of violence, but this is, as one ambassador said, political violence has been part of the political culture in Bangladesh, unfortunately. Secondly, I want to underpin that the photo you have shown is really a disappointing photo, but at the same time one needs to understand the mindset of it. And
You mean the flags, our flag being desecrated? Is that
why
what you
Indian flags, right? I mean, why is
Yeah.
it? It's because it's to many young Bangladeshi, it supported a brutal authoritarian regime which institutionalized extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances and institutionalized illegal secret prison across Bangladesh. So people got disappeared and their relatives didn't know where they were held. I have been to one of the events in Dhaka recently where young children brought out the photos of their fathers holding, where are my fathers? They're looking for 15 years, and that is Sheikh
So, so,
Hasina's
so you're saying India as a state is seen to
young,
be too
too
young
young.
Bangladeshis. Just trying
Yes.
to understand it here. You're saying that young Bangladeshis see India as on the side of Sheikh Hasina.
Yes, and I think there, diplomacy could move forward, and it would be useful to engage with young Bangladeshis for the Indian government, because as far as I understand, I do not see Awami League is returning into power with popular support in next decade.